So I'm Robert Williams from MetalRules.com, here today in San Antonio, Texas on May 1st for the final stop of the current Judas Priest Saxon tour with legendary guitarist Paul Quinn. How are you doing today, Paul?
Prime, I think. Perfect.
How's this North American tour been for you guys?
We should have done this years ago. You know, there were so many bands broke off the back of touring with Priest. You know, you just can't shake a stick at them. Finally, we're one of them.
Finally. Yeah. You know, you guys have stayed really consistent with touring the U.S. I remember the first time I ever saw you guys was either 2001 or 2002 in Sunken Gardens. And you guys drew at least 5,000 people out there, and I know that the legacy of the great Godfather Joe Anthony from Kiss FM had a lot to do with that.
Bless him.
Tell me about your memories of playing in San Antonio.
A lot of parties. We did a photo shoot here once where Biff was frisked by the local law department, which made it to the I think that was on Sound newspaper. I always quote this town as my favourite in the world. It is rock. This town is built on rock. Yeah, it is. You know, the late great Mark Rialli from Riot. Yeah.
You know, started out playing in New York and relocated to San Antonio. Is actually buried here. What is it about San Antonio that captivates you? Is it the audience? Is it the sights?
Oh, it's everything. The Riverwalk, the Tex-Mex food, everything. I'm a kind of bluesy rocker, so, you know, Texas blues resonates with me.
Big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan? Stevie Ray Vaughan fan?
Yeah, a lot of guys, yeah. Let's not forget ZZ Top.
ZZ Top, Texas classic, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about the new album, Thunderbolt, that just came out. You guys are on Silver Lining Music now. How's that going so far?
They're doing a great job, yeah. There's been a bit of charting going off, although you know, I'm not fully up to date on the situation, but the reissue single of Princess of the Night is doing well in Billboard. We're really happy with the record company, actually, yeah. They're opening up a little bit.
Yeah. Man, it's such an honor to be here with you right now from someone who's been there since the beginning. Do you have a favorite era of Saxon? I mean, I know a lot of fans are going to point towards the early 80s, but I mean, I think you guys have been so consistent, you know, from you know, the last 15, 20 years, just killer album after killer album. Do you have a personal favorite?
Ooh. I don't think I do, really. You know, they all have their own point in time. Obviously, a lot of people love Labyrinth and Metalhead and well, all of them, really.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. The new ones are getting plenty of airplay, so we were happy with that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, you know, of course, JJ French from Twisted Sister just made those comments the other day, and I just read today Biff's comments about, you know, other people can sit on their doorstep in their slippers, you know, puffing on their pipe, but you guys are Vikings and you're still doing it. And that's so relevant because every 2 years you guys are back here tearing the house down again. You know, and now with Thunderbolt. I understand that album is dedicated to the memory of Lemmy.
Yep, we'll never forget him.
Of course, in 1992, you guys had the famous Bombers and Eagles tour. What do you remember from going out on the road with Motorhead?
A lot of alcohol. Heck of a lot of alcohol. led me like to do everything all at the same time, uppers, downers, sideways, everything.
Pretty over the top character.
Yeah. But he was clever and humorous, which is quite a combination. The rest of the guys in the original band, Phil and Eddie, used to be fighting a lot of the time, because Eddie would say, I'm not good enough, and Phil would say, you are, I'm not, you are, I'm not, scrap.
So I'm imagining you guys probably knew each other like years before '92, right?
Not particularly, no.
Not really?
We did a gig in the Music Machine in London, which became, I think, Coco. Anyway, Lemmy saw us there. We were headlining over Iron Maiden at that point, but
and rightfully so.
He chose us for the their, I think that was the fall tour of 1979.
1979. That was the year I was born. Wow, Paul, that's amazing. So, looking back at the new wave of British heavy metal, and of course all the killer acts that came out around then, you guys, Angel Witch, Iron Maiden, Samson, Titan, Witchfinder General. What all do you remember about that time period?
We didn't get to play with that many of them.
Really?
No, not particularly. We heard most of them on the Metal for Mothers album. We played with Maiden 2 or 3 times. Once in Manchester, you missed. And the headliner there was Nuts. You ever heard of Nuts?
Nuts?
N-U-T-Z.
Never heard of Nuts.
No. No, they were quite a big rock band in Britain. And Maiden and us were just on our way up, kind of thing. No, you're asking somebody like years after the fact who was partying on down, so there's not a lot of memory going to come out.
It just seems like that whole movement was so working class, like were you guys just living day to day, check to check?
In a way, this particular band, Biff and I, were builders labourers, carrying concrete around and bricks.
Looking for some sixth form girls.
Yeah, most of the time looking for sixth form girls, but now looking for girls our own age. How old is sixth form? 11 plus 6 is 17. That's about right for England.
Yeah. And tell me about how you started out playing guitar. That fascinates me. I mean, you've been doing this so long.
How did I start?
Yeah. Like, what was your inspiration from the get-go?
Principally, I started trying to play by doing Beatles songs. Until I heard, the 3 guitarists that came out, the Yardbirds, and after them Jimi Hendrix. So it all became a bit more competitive at that point. People weren't just playing simple blues; they were making some, side moves on the blues, making it into rock music as it is now. Especially Zeppelin and Purple.
Are they your
Sabbath.
favorites? Zeppelin, Purple, and Sabbath. And so, like, after all these tours, after all these nights on the road, is there ever a time where you, like, discover a new band and you go, wow, that band is fucking killer? Or is it, like, coming from an era where you did with all those killer, legendary players, are you still, like, sticking to your guns, like, with the old bands? Or, like, how's that work?
No, we choose wisely, let's put it that way, what support bands we have, and we've had some really good ones. Halcyon Way. What are the other guys called? My memory's gone again. Put myself on the spot there, didn't I?
That's okay.
Yeah.
No problem. You've seen it all. You've been there, done that. That's cool. Well, what is your personal favorite guitar to play? Do you have a favorite?
Well, of the period when I was growing up, and the guy that influenced me a great deal was Hendrix, Clapton, Jeff Beck even, and then I discovered this guy in a kind of jazz fusion band that were playing really hippie jazz. You know, they were called Pato, and the guitarist was called Oliver Halsall, who's in the same kind of same league as a lot of fusion players, but unfortunately he's not alive anymore. So if anybody wants to check out some serious ripping guitar, look for Pato albums.
Okay, look for Pato albums. So for all the guitarists listening out there, in the Paul Quinn interview, how do we get the Paul Quinn sound? What kind of axe, what kind of rig are we looking at?
Let's start with the person. Everyone has a different pick attack. In my case, I'm using a pick at about 30 to 40 degrees to the string, so that's fairly unusual. It's a way of getting more power without hitting harder. We use transmitters live, obviously in the studio not, but we try to choose transmitters that have a similar sound to a cable, and we have been using Marshall, but now we're using DV Mark heads as well, which we use a preamp in front of them called a Kemper, which we can carry around the world with our album sounds in and our album effects. Although we do prefer outboard wah-wahs, but you can get the Kemper to do all that as well. As regards speakers, we like vintage 30s in 412s or 212s, it doesn't really matter. If I have a choice of microphone, it will be an SM57 Unidyne type. They're just, from the year dot, they sounded great for guitars.
Can't go wrong with an SM57. Mm-hmm. Good choice. I'm sure a lot of people at home are going to be taking notes on that. Paul, thank you so much again for taking the time. From someone who's been just carrying the torch for metal for so long, what do you say to kids out there now today who live in this generation of downloads and people stealing music and bands having to come up with new ways to make a living for themselves? What do you say to kids starting out right now as metal guitarists? Any advice you give them?
What to improve as musicians? I can only say what I did, which is sit with the guitar for hours on end, noodling and listening to things on the TV and playing along to them, Just try and make yourself able to play anything until you specialize in a sound, and then stick with it. Is that good enough?
I think any advice from Paul Quinn is good enough for our listeners at home. Paul, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today. Any last words for your Saxon fans listening at home?
One more time?
Any last words for your Saxon fans listening at home?
Words for Saxon fans? You rock.